Now, you guys spiritual?
I'm spiritual, yes.
What do you mean by spiritual?
I would say that I pretty much believe that there is a higher power.
Same thing. I believe there's definitely a higher power. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why we're here or what's our purpose, but I believe there's a God.
What sort of car is that?
This right here, Honda Civic.
Okay. Would you ever doubt that it had a maker?
No.
You know there's a maker.
Yes, of course.
Why? We know there's a creator because of creation. We don't just believe, you know. And when the Bible speaks of believing, it means like a trust. Can you think of any time you exercise trust? What about a doctor when he gives you pills? You throw them back without a second thought. They could kill you. He could have made a mistake, but you just trust your life to a doctor. Now, you said you don't know why you're here.
I don't.
No reason for your existence.
As far as I know, we're all just here, floating on a ball in the middle of space. So I know.
Purpose is to learn and grow and spread knowledge. That is our overall purpose. That's it's to evolve as humans. It's to evolve as people. And I personally, I don't discredit religion, but I don't feel as though you need religion to grow and to become more knowledgeable as a person.
Well, that's true, absolutely true. You don't need religion to do that. You just need a book, a good book.
Yeah.
Do you believe we evolved, or did God make us in his own image?
I believe that we evolved.
Okay, what was in the beginning?
Well, there was just molecules, and then...
Oh, wait, that's not the beginning. There's molecules. What was in the beginning before there's molecules?
Oh, like you're talking about prior to the Big Bang, or...
Yeah. The Big
we
Bang,
don't know.
yeah.
Nobody knows.
There's billions of people that say God was in the beginning. He's eternal, no beginning and no end. He created man in his own image. He didn't make man as a primate that found a female from somewhere.
For all we know, I mean, you're saying God was in the beginning and just came from nowhere. For all we know, our God...
Well, he didn't come because he's eternal, no beginning, no end, outside the dimension of time.
Just atoms. I mean, that could be technically our God. That's our creator. You know, it's energy. It's energy. Well, I mean, somebody had to...
The Big Bang Theory, there's... What do you know about that? No one knows the answer. So I believe that's why there's a God. I believe something created this earth. I don't think it just blew up from nothing. I think it was created. That's what I believe.
I mean, like, you could look at Darwinism and look at the Galapagos Islands and just see how, I mean, the trees the birds are able to eat from the flowers, how their bills were specially designed to go deep into the flowers, and it's like the only birds on the planet that are able to do things like that. I mean, you could see...
How is that evolution? How is that proof?
I mean, that's proof of evolution.
Could you tell me how?
Well, because they're relative to their geographic location.
Now he's just nailed it. That's not evolution, that's adaptation, and we see that everywhere. Darwin said that there'd be changes in kinds, that birds would change into different animals over time. That was his theory. Birds adapt by their beaks, but they still stay birds. They don't change in anything else. That's not Darwinian evolution, that's called adaptation. So I want proof for Darwin's theory. There'll be a change of kinds over time, and there's no proof for that.
Well, you're saying a proof for Darwin's theory. You can't prove a theory, because I mean, you could only prove something that you could scientifically observe.
So it's blind faith.
So we haven't. It's
What's that?
Schools they treat that as a fact, but there's no evidence. It's just a theory.
So you have fossil evidence, and you could look back and you could see the genomes of certain species, and you could see different things like that. I mean, it's not
They weren't any different.
It's just because we weren't actually able to physically.
Are you two friends?
Yeah, best friends.
we disagree.
Yeah, we have our disagreements.
There's no fossil evidence. It's called the missing link. There's all just bones of the past, but there's no fossil evidence of Darwinian evolution, no changes of kinds. It's all still missing. It's just blind faith. It's a theory.
We could call it that. If you want to call it blind faith, that's my faith then.
True. Now, you know what we're going to do? We're going to change gears a little, if you guys can handle it. At the moment, we're addressing your intellect. I want to address your conscience, okay? Do you think you're a good person?
I'd like to think so.
And what about you?
Yes, absolutely.
How many lies have you told in your life?
Countless.
And what about you?
The same.
Yeah, have you ever stolen something in your whole life?
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I have to.
Okay, so you're both lying thieves?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll ask the God or universe for forgiveness. And
Have you ever used God's name in vain?
Yes.
That's called blasphemy. It's very serious. What about you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one to go, and I appreciate your honesty. Jesus said if you look at a woman and lust for her, you commit adultery with her in your heart. Have you ever looked at a woman with lust?
But yes, I do lust for women.
And what about you?
Yes, every single day.
So I'm not judging you guys, but you've both told me that you're lying, thieving, blasphemous, adulterous at heart, and you've got to face God on Judgment Day. If he judges you by the 10 Commandments, we've looked at 4 of them, are you going to be innocent or guilty?
Oh, guilty.
And what about you?
Yes, I'd be guilty for my yes.
Heaven or hell?
Just exploring the cosmos, hopefully, with my consciousness, just energy, just transferring from one state to another.
Excuse me, what question did I ask you? Heaven or hell?
I don't believe in either,
I
so.
didn't ask if you believe, and I said if you're guilty on Judgment Day, do you think you'll go to heaven or hell?
Well, if there is a heaven or hell, more than likely, I guess hell. I would be burning in hell for looking at a woman and saying, wow, she's a beautiful woman.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about sexual desire, pornography of the heart, lusting after her, not looking at a woman saying she's beautiful. Is that what you do, or do you lust after them?
A little bit of both.
Yes, that's true.
A little bit of both, yes.
You know, every time you sin according to the Bible, you store up God's wrath. Have you ever seen an LA freeway chase on television? And hear the commentators say, what's wrong with this guy? He can't get away. There's a helicopter in the sky. Every time he breaks the law, he's making it worse for himself. Why doesn't he just give up? And there's an eye of God in the sky. He sees everything you do. He made your brain. He sees your thought life. And every time you sin, you store up his wrath.
Well, is everything according to Christians is predetermined, right? God
No.
has a written plan.
No.
God does not have a plan.
No, I wouldn't say everything's predetermined. You watch the Super Bowl live, and you come back and watch it on television, you know exactly what's going to happen.
If you watch it live and then you watch it again.
You don't determine the game. You're not
Exactly.
predetermining, but you've got foreknowledge. And God's the same. So yeah, he sees everything, knows everything, nothing's hid from his eyes, including time.
I mean, if he knows that, there's going to be the school shooting in Texas and somebody's going to go kill 10 people, why create that person? If he knows that there's going to be kids born with cancer and, born with brain tumors and living a life of agony, why create them?
Yeah, that's a good question. He did create all things perfect in the beginning with no sin, no pain, no suffering, death. But when sin came in, if you read the instruction book, it brought in death, pain, suffering, and that's why we see all these things around us that are horrific. So you'd end up in hell if you died today and God gave you justice. And you've got no excuse because he gave you a conscience. Conscience means with knowledge. I don't know if you realize what we did, but we went from your intellect, the place of argument, to your conscience, the place of the knowledge of right and wrong. And my confidence is that your conscience is on my side. He's like a little judge on the courtroom of your mind that accuses you when you do wrong, when you lie or steal or blaspheme or lust after women. Your conscience says that's wrong. It's so powerful it drives men to drink and even some to suicide. It's like a little light that God's given you, a moral light, and that leaves you without excuse on the day of judgment. There's something called mens rea in a court of law. Mens rea is that a guy can't be accused of a crime if he doesn't know he did wrong. But if he does know he did wrong, then he can be accused. He can be sentenced. And you and I are guilty before God because of that conscience. The Bible says it's the work of the law written on our hearts. So does it concern you that if you died today, you'd end up in hell?
Yes.
And you're not concerned, or is some concern there?
I don't have a concern with hell.
You don't love life?
I love life.
So you want to keep it. You don't want to end up in hell.
Absolutely.
So you may not be concerned, but I am deeply concerned. I'm sitting on the side of the road interviewing you guys because I care about you. No other reason. You don't realize it, but I love you guys enough to tell you the truth. Yeah, God became a human being to suffer and die on the cross. You may know that, but you may not know the legal implications. You and I broke God's law, the 10 Commandments, and Jesus paid the fine. If you're in court and someone pays the fine, the judge can let you go even though you're guilty. You can say, look, one, I'm mad or guilty, but someone's paid their fine, they're out of here. Well, because of what Jesus did on the cross, God can dismiss your case, commute your death sentence, let you legally live forever because of that suffering, death, and resurrection. When he was on the cross, he cried out, it is finished. In other words, the debt has been paid. And then he defeated death by his resurrection. And what you have to do is repent of your sins. Let go of them. Turn from them and trust Jesus Christ like you trust a parachute. You don't just believe in a parachute, you put it on, you put your faith into it, then it will save you. If you're on the edge of a plane 10,000 feet up and you didn't see a need to put on a parachute because you didn't believe in gravity because you can't see it, or you wanted to argue about the origin of the plane, best thing I could ever do for you is hang you out the plane by your ankles for 5 seconds. You come back in and say, hey, give me that parachute. Because fear has kicked in, it's done its duty. And it's made good sense come to your brain and say, man, if I'm going to live, I got to put on a parachute. And that's what I've tried to do today. Put a little bit of fear of God in your heart and say, man, You're going to pass into eternity. You don't know when this is going to happen. You'll be snatched into eternity today. And so I'm saying mean business about your salvation. So what I'm saying makes sense, or you think I'm a raving idiot?
No, I mean, I appreciate, putting the fear of God and, allowing me to, take into consideration. But I mean, I was raised in a Christian household. I've been to church, and, my free will, I just chose not to believe. And that is just my decision. I don't think it makes me a bad person. I don't think that...
No, that doesn't make you a bad person. You're already a bad person because of your sins. The definition of good is moral perfection in thought, word, and deed. According in the dictionary, there's 40 different definitions. Number one is moral perfection. And if you're not morally perfect on Judgment Day, you're going to get the justice of God.
Are you morally perfect?
No, that's why I'm a Christian. I need God's mercy. I'm worse than you guys. I've had a longer time to store up, wrath. I became a Christian when I was 22, but by then I was just filled with unlawful sexual desire. Every woman I looked at, I lusted after. I couldn't help it. And I knew I was in big trouble on Judgment Day.
Well, that's just natural human traits, in my opinion. That's just natural.
It's true. We naturally lie and steal. You don't have to teach a kid to do wrong. He knows naturally to do it, but it doesn't make it right. You say that to a judge in a court of law. Judge raped that woman, but it was just natural. He's not going to let you go. He's going to hold you to justice.
I just don't feel that we need exactly, and that's exactly what you said. A kid just knows, and I don't think we need a book to tell us, or, have a higher being tell us, or have an idea of a higher being to tell us this is wrong.
Because you've got a conscience. You don't need that at all.
Conscience, and we are all connected in some weird way that we can't explain. And there's nobody that has an answer for us. Nobody has an answer. You can't tell me, oh, it's God, and then until I physically see God, And
so you need to physically see the maker of the car before you know there's a car maker.
No, well,
No, of course you don't. And you're not silly.
I mean, there's quite obvious that there's factories. I mean, that's something you could pull up on the internet and find out who made your car.
You don't need to. It's got it written on it.
You could, yeah, exactly. You could Google that, but you can't Google images of God.
So has it made sense what I've mentioned to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you're here to help us, and you seem like a good person, and we're glad you did.
So if you died today and God gave you justice, you'd end up in hell. When do you think you're going to put your faith in Christ fully?
When? Well, I've had that opportunity, and I haven't done that,
When are you going to do it?
I don't know.
When are you going to die?
I honestly don't know.
When are you going to die?
I have no answers.
Well, 150,000 people die every 24 hours. We're sitting on the side of the road. We could be cleaned up in seconds if a car came around the corner out of control, or you had an aneurysm in your sleep tonight, or your heart gave out. So this is deadly serious, so don't put it off, guys, okay? Yeah, just give some serious thought to what we talked about. I'm not asking you to give up your money or join a church. I'm saying think about your eternal salvation, because there's nothing more important. Any other questions?
No, I think I'm good.
Well, you're not good.
Yeah. Well.
Any questions from you?
No, you've been very thorough with everything.
Got a Bible?
I do, in my room.
Did you last read it?
Maybe 2 years ago.
So you're going to rethink what we talked about? Think about these things?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Our YouTube channel has over 50 million views. Help us to continue to make our videos available at no cost, advertising free, by partnering with us. See livingwaters.com/partner for details. Thank you.